Because if you want to win, you've got to risk losing. And if you don't really go after the win, then at some point you're almost like cushioning the blow somewhere.
Welcome, Ivan. This for me is a special little episode because there's even more of a deep connection which the listeners will feel at some stage. But
I'm very honoured, mate. Thank you.
It's going to be called the Limitless Leaders Playbook, actually. I want this to be a playbook for leaders out there that just go to, like you would have back in the day when you went to Alex Ferguson's book. His book on leading, one of your favourite books of all time. I want people to just go to this episode and hit play. Okay? And as you know, you're sitting here with Wes Maas, great friend. We're on a bit of a journey. People know of Wes's story and his success in business, but he's also on an endless journey of learning, like you are as a coach. I know you're on a limitless journey. So thanks so much, mate.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to ask you some questions at the end of the episode, but I'm going to mention them right now just so you know what they're going to be. At the end of the episode, I'm going to ask you, how do you define success? I'm going to ask you, what's your greatest achievement? And I'm going to ask you, what's been your biggest obstacle? But in the lead up to that, I'm just going to talk. I want to start with, mate, when are you at your best? When do you feel, if you had to think, I am at my best when?
I'm definitely at my best when I'm clear. So I've got clear objectives that aren't, they're not complicated. I believe in them. So when you've got that sort of clarity, to get that clarity, I think you've got to be, you've got to be believing in yourself. I'm not at my best if I'm second guessing things or listening too much to others or looking over the fence to see what someone else is doing. So I think when you're basically backing your instincts, backing your own judgment, being really clear on the road ahead, just staying true to yourself, being your authentic self.
You mentioned you're obviously at your best when you're clear. Is there a routine that helps that happen? Or do you ever feel if it's going off track, I need to do this to get clear again? Is there any little, everyone's got their own ways, but I think definitely all the types of listeners out there, the leaders, the successful ones out there, and athletes, whether it's athletes, coaches, performers, business people, they actually all know they perform at their best when they're clear. But do you have a deliberate routine? I know that we're sitting in your beautiful home now and I waited for you out the front because you were training. You have a little fitness regime going on, or is there something of a morning, or is there anything you do to make sure you're at your best, health-wise?
Yeah, the fitness thing it's been absent for a long time, so I only sort of started getting back into that last year. I had a few injury issues for a few years, so I didn't do much of that. But I definitely have a routine. It's not a super strict one, but it's a kind of general one where mainly I'll try and do things with my family, my wife, my family, some other things away from footy, work, because I find that I need that. I find that if I do too many days in a row where it's just work, I'm not at my best. I like to learn stuff, so I'm always trying to listen to a little bit of content or read some stuff, or just to continually, even if it's like, honestly, it's just a quote here or there.
Yeah.
I find that keeps me bouncing along. So I'm routine, but not super strict.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You said you like a bit of content or a quote. Do you have a favourite one? Is there a quote or is there some sort of lesson there in your life that sticks out, a favourite quote or I know I've already given away one of your favourite books was Alex Ferguson's book, which you wrote about in your book, which we'll have to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there a favourite quote you like to?
My memory's not so good anymore, H, but I did hear a good one. I read a good one last week from a very topical guy, Andy Reid, the Kansas City Chiefs coach, who's they're going for their three-peat in the Super Bowl next week, which will be the first time in NFL history that anyone's won 3 in a row. So Andy's been around for a long time. He's only really had a heap of success in the last sort of 3-4 years with the Chiefs. But yeah, just a simple one. He says, attack puts people in the stands, but defence wins games. And for your footy heads out there, I believe in that one.
Well, has Andy given you a call? Maybe Andy, if this was available to Andy, he would listen to you before, because you have done the 3-peat and you've done the 4-peat, and no one's done that in rugby league since, what are we talking, in the 1960s. So, so what you've recently just done, there's people listening to what you say the same way the whole world's listening to Andy this week. And I dare say that quote has just basically reminded you of what you value anyway.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, there was one year recently where you were the best defensive team in the history of rugby league. So, mate, that's
just on that, H. I think when I hear things like that or read things like that, I think sometimes just reinforcement of your own beliefs is a really positive thing to do regularly.
Yeah.
I've found that I do a couple of I'm in a couple of leadership groups online, where you just chat with like-minded people, and it's all in-house. And pretty much every time I come off one of those chats, that's the main thing. I think I was like, okay, what I'm doing is I'm on the right path. Where, and I think that's probably overlooked. Everyone wants to, it's great to learn new stuff, but often it's just a really powerful thing just to get that reinforcement. I am doing the right thing. My instinct is good. Do you know what I mean? Because I think as people, we just so often get in our own way. No matter how much success we had, or you just, it's almost this natural kind of, no, this is what I'm like anyway. I'll always somehow arrive at the point of you second guess stuff, or is everyone going to catch up to us, or we overlook this, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, all those little reinforcement things are, if you do them regularly, I think that's how you stay on track. So that's sort of probably part of my routine as well, just trying to feel good about, the way I do things, and the way we're doing things is a good way. And whether it's the right way or not, it's our way, and if it's your way, that you get a good opportunity to be your real self, and that's probably when you're going to be successful.
You just mentioned those leadership groups that you chat with. I love that you said that, because that's what this is. Whoever's listening is listening to you as if they're just getting the opportunity to chat with you, which not many people get to do. We recently did a chat with Craig McRae, which will be released the week before this one. And he talked about how he loved learning. The same way you just talked about the coach in America, he talked about you in the same fashion. And since the episode, he's even sent me photos of your book. So your book,
thanks, Craig.
I just happen to have here. You don't need me to promote it. It's already a bestseller. Mate, what made you eventually do this? Because, you could have written a book after the first premiership, but then the second, then the third, and then this was actually published before you won the fourth. What made you do it? And do you realise, because I'm going to tell you some stories of people that have called me since, do you realise that this is now one of those books on the people's shelves like you had Alex Ferguson's? Do you realise that or not?
I'm starting to. It's still really surreal. I had a couple of people ring me, and this one guy, he coaches in rugby in New Zealand, which is quite one of the areas where I learned a lot from, and really looked up to, particularly around the All Black space. And anyway, he said he had his highlighter out, and So that was like, I do that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's just, it's crazy. So it's very humbling actually, but that's sort of why I did it. You know, at the end of the day, I just, I never in my wildest dreams thought that this would happen. You know, even when I first had a few people sort of saying, "Oh, you should do it," like you probably the first one, mate. You were always the one. Put it in the book. Put it in the book.
I'm going to get commissioned for this book.
I've been saying this for years. I'll put it in the book, and I'd just laugh it off. It's sort of after we won 3, it was like, okay. I think I probably just figured. I think we have a story that's worth telling, and you know, I wanted it to appeal to more than sport, definitely more than rugby league. Hopefully business, obviously with the father-son thing with Nat, you know, just about every sporting team, you know, in Australia or anywhere, like junior sporting team. Yeah, or mother, son, mother, daughter, father, daughter. Yeah. So that was obviously, you know, obvious link as well. The other thing I think a little bit more comfortable in sharing. You know, I was probably a bit like a spoiled kid at first, you know, I didn't want to, you know, I was very in-house, I didn't want to give up anything we were doing, and because that's a bit like what rugby league is, it's a very closed shop, you know, so I kind of got more comfortable with, well, you know, knowing and doing are 2 different things, you know. You can read all the content you want, but at some point you've actually got to go and do something about it and put it into practice. So I think I got a little bit more comfortable with just sharing some stuff and not feeling like, oh, you know, we're going to lose our power.
Yeah. Well, I need to tell you stories of people that have contacted me. Matt Pete, the Wigan coach, who we will be chasing up as part of this series.
Should.
He just won 4 trophies last year, and he was on holidays and he couldn't get his head around the pre-season coming up, and he had to back it up again and go back to back and maintain that hunger that his team has. And he phoned me from his holidays to say, Ivan Cleary has just inspired me. I cannot get my head. I am on. I am back. I am focused. I am on. Like, you inspired. This guy just won the Super League and won the Challenge Cup, and like he had a successful year, but you inspired him to get back. And I had another coach who had been coaching at a super high level, and he just lost his job. And he said, that's the best book of coaching I've ever read, and I read a lot. And he reads a lot. He's got a library so. Then I've had people on the staff that I currently work with come in and say, oh my God, Ivan Cleary's my new favourite person. I've got to meet him one day. So this book has inspired a lot of people, right? There's a chapter at page 91 they've got to read, I've noticed. You need to read page 91.
Oh, wasn't real good.
That's my one, mate.
Oh, that's you. Okay,
yeah. No. Anyway.
I should have known.
No, mate, I want to talk about a couple of these things in here, because the attraction of consistency, the way you believe culture wins, and the look, feel, act. Could we go there?
Yeah. You're
attracted to consistency. Like, what was your attraction there? What made you say that? Why was that at the very start of the book?
I just think that's sort of how I was brought up. I think my parents were pretty conservative types. Certainly my dad, who coached me a lot when I was a kid, and I don't know. I just liked following teams or people that were consistent. I liked people that were consistent. You know, I liked to know what. You know, in relationships, you like to know what you're going to get, whether it's teachers or friends or whatever, family. And then sporting teams, I just thought that was awesome that you could just keep winning, you know. So that's one of the reasons I loved Sir Alex and Manchester United and the All Blacks, and you know, I mentioned it plenty of times, Melbourne Storm and rugby league. Just think it's one thing to be able to win. But to be able to do it again and again and again is like, that's extra special. That's just what I've always thought. You know, guys like Rafael Nadal won 13 French Opens, and you've got to play the longest games of they take forever, and how hard that must be. But yeah, I don't know. That's just I guess what I'm attracted to. I always sort of thought I would love to have it. Love to be involved in a team like that. But you got to win once before you can be like that.
Yeah.
So that was mainly what I was been chasing most of my playing and coaching career, just to be able to win once. And then once we did that, then it was like a bit of a mission to stay there. Because I guess the other thing is not winning, because I didn't win a premiership for about 25 years of the NRL, like playing and being a head coach. So there's 25 years of knowing what it's like not winning. Having small wins, obviously, but not winning, getting to the summit. So once you're there, it feels pretty good. So I guess it's added to that determination of, to keep winning.
Yeah, well, part of that, which comes out in the book, and I'm sure people that are leading businesses out there or sporting franchises out there, they hear the word culture. Now you talk about it a lot, that culture wins, but it actually, like, you're living proof of it. Like you set out, your absolute priority was to develop a winning culture, and you did that by really making it pretty clear how we want to look, how we want to feel, and how we want to act. And that comes out in the book. But can we talk about that, because I know how much you value it, and I know everybody out there listening reads the same stuff, and they've all heard culture wins, and they all want this winning culture, but you had to invest in it daily. It's an everyday thing, right? But talk us through your process of look, feel, act.
Yeah, so one of my assistant coaches when I first started at the Warriors in 2006, a guy called John Ackland. John's about, 15 years older than me. Very wise kind of guy. So I was like 34, I think, and he was just under 50. Anyway, he told me one day, he said, the most important thing you do will be to create a good environment. At the time, I was like, I kind of, I understood, but I thought I understood, but I don't think I really did. So anyway, over many years, I always had that in my mind. I was, I loved the concept of winning culture, and all those teams that regularly win, consistently win. That's what everyone used to say. They've got a culture, so players come and go, but they just, it's not so much the players, but how it all fits together. As Bill Belichick from the Patriots, and I'm a big fan of the Patriots, as he used to say, it's not so much about the individuals, but the main thing is how they all fit together. So it wasn't until I got sacked after 10 years of being a first grade coach, sacked here at the Panthers, and then I went away and sort of thought about that and thought, how am I going to articulate, like be a little bit more explicit about what a winning culture is. I was just running like the implicit model, where it was just sort of growing organically, where you'd sort of have standards and maybe a few rules or whatever, and do things a certain way, and then it was sort of just kind of happen. I was just sort of running out of time. I want to kind of name it or label it. And then I got sent a podcast, content.
Nice work.
Driving in the car one day, and it was actually on a guy called Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer, for those who don't know, he's quite a successful American football college coach. He's actually failed in the NFL, but that's another story. But anyway, he was on this podcast, and he was talking about culture, and it just broke it into those three things. What does it look like? How does it feel? And what does it act like? And I was just like, that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I was looking for, to try and just sort of articulate it so people could understand it. So just put into three things on each of those. What does it look like? Fit, organised, reliable. What does it feel like? Safe, psychologically safe.
Yeah.
Intense, so it's going to be hard. You're going to train hard. You're going to have to work hard, no doubt about that, and connected. And then what does it act like? Teamwork, team first mentality, trust. So it's one word, but it's a big concept. But trust the systems we have, trust yourself, trust each other. As a coach, I've got to give them, a system that's worth trusting.
Yeah.
It's a daily exercise, and courage.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from. So we put that together in 2020, or the end of 2019, for the 2020 season. I didn't know whether I would keep that or would change it or whatever, but it's still the same.
Yeah.
There's not really that many little tweaks, but you sort of fill in stories, in between there.
It guides you, and you can review each game on it.
So that's where that came from, and to this day, it's absolutely the number one priority for me is creating a good environment, which is sort of the same thing as culture, to allow people to be themselves and to be at their best.
Well, mate, well done on that, because there's a variety of listeners, but if there's any rugby league listeners out there, they know when they watch Panthers. You go back to look. Like, I'll ask Wes right now, who's sitting here, he watches, former league player himself. You watch Panthers, do they look fit?
Yes.
Do they look organised?
Yes.
And the style they play is reliable, right? So, tick, tick, tick. There's a lot of detail in and amongst that, but they look that way.
But that's now in the past too, H.
You got to keep doing it.
You do,
because it can. Doing it.
It's like a garden,
It's like a garden, mate.
You take your eye off it.
Yeah.
So go on.
Beautiful garden. By the way, mate.
How do you inspire your team to do it again year after year? You've won 4 in a row, lost one first to win your 4. How do you continually inspire and change? Like, you keep the same theme with your culture. How do you inspire?
Well, I feel like it's a whole team approach. So the first thing I'll do is when the new season rolls around, I'll get a feel from them, like how they're feeling. You know pretty much when they first come back to pre-season. Firstly, like how they look, you can tell what they've been up to. So if they've been working, that's a pretty good sign. We've been fortunate to have a fairly young team, so they had success. A lot of them had success at quite a young age. So it's sort of like, they didn't wait their whole lives or whole careers and then have some sail off into the sunset. And they all just wanted to get better, and that's what we always continue to drive. Like, you want to keep learning, whereas we want to keep learning. They want to keep getting better. Just as much as we're proud of our achievements, we don't want to live in the past, and there's always a new challenge around the corner. I think that's what drives us all, and so it hasn't really been that hard, and as I said before, like, winning is so much fun. It's just so addictive that I think you just respect it more, and what goes into it and how much goes into it. And it's at the end of the day, it's our job to win games. So, like anyone, we want to go to work and do a good job.
So, Wes, who's off camera here, but we can hear these questions. If you asked him the same question, they're actually very similar answers. In a business that just keeps growing at 20-30% every year, I asked you, Wes, what's your biggest challenge? And you said the challenge is to keep maintaining the culture, the gardening bit.
I'd say our biggest opportunity is to harness and enhance our culture, and the biggest risk is to
not
lose our culture. So, but it's always you've always got to work on it and always got to talk about it from my experience.
Yeah. Well, you were talking before, off camera about discretional effort, Wes, and I think that's part of having a good culture and creating a good environment for people. Like, if they feel valued and like coming to work and feel comfortable to be themselves. I think that's a good way of getting that discretional effort. So that's I think that's important. That's important to be able to, that motivates people too. The other thing is, like when I said we're trying to improve, like we always try and evolve as a team, and I think that can be exciting as well. Just everyone always wants to see the next part of how they can improve and what that is, what that looks like, and chase after that. Like if you think about like sport, why you played sport in the first place, it wasn't for. You might have had a dream to be, an NRL player or, a pro golfer or whatever, but you really start because you love it, and that's the sort of environment we like to keep trying to create. Yes, it's professional. We've got to win games. But we want it to be fun and challenging and all that as well.
Could I ask you then? I mean, you're managing a fairly large staff. It gets bigger each year in professional sport, but also a full-time squad of 30 to 36 players. Wes is managing 2,500 employees, so this is going to be an interesting one. I remember clearly you sat me down one day and said our total priority is communication, or trust and communication.
Yep.
How do you maintain communicating at the level you value with such a big staff? And then be interested in Wes, how do you do it with 2,500 people? But you value that they were your two biggest things, trust and communication. I'll come back to trust, but communication on a footy field, but also off the field. Talk to me about that as a topic.
Yeah, I'm glad you'll come back to trust, because that is the number one priority.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you should say it, because today our biggest work on today was communication.
The day we're filming?
The day we're filming, yeah, and that's the truth. So that'll give you an answer where we're always working on it. I think even today, like we have a lot of young guys, and I feel like the generation today, it just seems like there's more and more kids who don't talk easily, probably because they communicate by phones a lot. And it's now sort of got to a point where they just don't talk as much as so we're always trying to find ways to get them to talk. So one, say in drills and on field, they've got to know what to talk about. So that's one thing. Do they know what they're doing? Do they know, so process and routine and triggers of what to say. Then it's like not all talk. It's like, there's a lot of other cues, like non-verbal cues, whether it's a little hand or a little eyebrow for our Māori brothers. That's all part of it. Just so everyone knows that they're connected. We get people down the front of our little theatre at the start of each day to get interviewed. So that's a trust building, but that's also helping them to be able to communicate when they're nervous, and so always looking for little different ways, one-on-one meetings, meetings with other people in the room as well. Just get them sort of out of their comfort zone a little bit. Get them a bit more used to it. It's just so it's just so important. You can't. It doesn't matter how good a player you are, if you're not communicating, you're not helping anyone. So
I remember we spoke about this once before on another podcast, where it was, if you're not communicating, you're no good to me, was what you said.
Yeah, well, you're not fitting, like you're not connecting with other people, which means, like going back to Bill Belichick's thing, it's not so much about the individuals, but it's how they fit together. So part of that is connection. Verbal, non-verbal, emotion, everything.
And going back to the best defensive team wins. We spoke about it on another episode where when there's a void in communication, negativity fills it. That's a bit of a saying, but if we're defending next to each other now and we are not talking, or we have not communicated what's coming our way, there is a mistake coming our way.
Yep.
And to
Sure.
listeners that aren't coaching sport in the NRL or in a lot of team sports, if you often come in for a Monday review of the game and there's a mistake and I've seen you do it and you go, what happened here? Usually the answer is we didn't talk. We didn't talk. So there's usually a mistake coming your way if you're not talking. But that's easy for me to say. It was such a challenge to make sure you do it. It's like, it's as important as coaching skills or coaching in the gym or it is that important. So I'm wondering, do you feel the same in business, Wes? Like when there's avoiding communication, does negativity fill it?
For sure. I mean, it's a little bit different in business where we trust our culture carriers in each business, so our leaders in each business to filter that message down. So we catch up as a leadership team. We break that up into a senior leadership team as a 15 group, GMs out to 40, operations managers out to 80, and we catch up and we don't have any unspoken expectations. We communicate everything really in writing, and we clearly communicate our expectations and the consequences, so there is no surprises.
Yeah.
I think that's it's definitely a big challenge in business. As the business gets bigger and bigger, we do rely more and more on our key leaders as the culture carriers to push that messaging down.
Yeah.
I think that's this type of transparency that the modern generation appreciate. They like to know what's going on. Like I know when I was younger, you were probably the same. Like we were probably more inclined to just do what we're told, and whereas these days it's the age of information. So it's I think that transparency and actually explaining what's going on that builds trust. But that comes from communication and being open, and this is what's happening. And most people, like, as long as they know what's they're sort of told what's, how it's working, what's going. This decision was made because of X, Y, Z. Yeah. That's probably okay. It's sort of when
you communicate every morning with your staff. You meet every morning.
Yep.
And then you review after every training.
Yep.
You then deliberately have meetings that communicate with players and get their intentions for the day, so that you do have a routine to it. I know Wes, you communicate with your immediate group of leaders each day, and then that filters down. Oh, if you went on a little learning mission once. You're a lifelong learner. You went and visited the fire department of LA, didn't you? Was that it?
That's ironic, isn't it?
Isn't that ironic now?
Yeah.
But the crew you met was. What year was that?
Yeah, that was the end of 2019.
End of 2019. And I remember you did come back with a lot of you were very impressed with the guy, how he communicated, how he reviewed each day as well, and how he communicated with his staff. Yeah,
he was amazing. So there's a couple of ironies there. One, obviously, the big fires that has probably happened a while ago when this gets put out, but on the way to so we're going from it was a decent drive down to where we had to go. We're on the freeway, and there was literally a fire on the side of the hills as we were driving on the freeway, like this massive fire. Yeah. And so we're thinking, it's going to get called off. Like, these guys are going to be out, Yeah. And anyway, the boss rings in and says, no, come down. So anyway, sure enough, we get down there, and all the trucks are out, but he's there, and he said, no, I'll so there's a full-on emergency going on through LA, right in his area, but he's like, no, I'll come in, and he's taking us through the presentation, and then his little beepers are going off, and just sort of, halfway through his presentation, so just hang on a sec, he takes the call, no, send that truck here, do that, and then puts down and keeps doing his presentation. Like, it's the calmest, mate, the coolest dude you've ever seen. Yeah. But that was like, wow, so if he's that calm and he's delivering really clear messages, that's going down the line, and in a literally raging fire, people are hopefully making clear, calm, rational decisions. So that was pretty cool, like in a real life sort of situation, to see someone who he knew his stuff. He was super clear on what needed to be done. He was calm. He was like compartmentalising as well. So he was talking to us, showing us stuff, and then he's also taking calls. It was amazing.
Well, people describe you like that. And I've been on the end of a radio that you're on the radio mid-game, and you are very calm, very clear, very calm. And you obviously had influences in your life, but you were attracted to this guy in LA because he's very calm. Your own son, who leads your team as captain, co-captain, and by position leads the team as a halfback, he's very calm. You know, you obviously value that in a leader. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I think it's important for those guys to also show their emotions, you know, when necessary as well. But I just think, like, you know, if the leader's not losing his head, but he's getting a bit flustered and screaming and stuff, like, it's probably going to go down the line, and then that's seen to be how it's done, which might get you results, by the way. That might get you. But yeah, I think the calmer you can be, you're more likely, I think, to stay process driven, make a rational decision, you know, when the heat's on, I guess, literally, in my friend's case. But that was just one of those amazing little, you go and do a PD trip, and to see someone right in the middle of their game day, like in action, in such a, you know, we were going along to the fire department. I'm thinking, we'll just have a look through the fire trucks, and could be pretty, you know, ho-hum. Anyway, it was one of the best things we did on the trip. So.
That's great.
Yeah, no one was hurt, I don't think, by the way, which was cool. But yeah.
Well, this was years ago now, but I just knew that you valued that stuff. I'm going to go back to trust now. I've mentioned a couple of books. One is Ivan Cleary, Not Everything Counts, But Everything Matters. One was Sir Alex Ferguson, Leading, one of your favourites.
Yeah, there was a couple he did.
You gave us a book. You gave all your staff a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni.
Well done.
And you made it very, very clear to your staff that trust was the #1 priority, and off the back of that, communication would come. You take me through what you loved about that book, and if Patrick's out there, thanks very much for the influence. But could you talk to me about that's your biggest priority, and then it's easy to use the word trust. How do you develop it? How do you keep investing in it?
Yeah, so this started, I first read The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team probably around 2010, I reckon. 2009, I was coaching the Warriors and really liked it, but it's like a lot of books, I guess, you read, you put it in your little bookshelf and move on to the next one. And anyway, 10 years later, 2019, my first year back at Panthers, we did doing it together. We were struggling, you know. I was struggling personally. Anyway, my brother sent me a like a screenshot of this triangle that's in the book. It's sort of like the 5 dysfunctions, and I was like, I've read that, and it was like, and then I read basically just went through the triangle. I said, that's us. Like we are. That is our team. Like we are dysfunctional. It was like a light bulb moment of this truth. So I thought, right, read the book again, and it was just a really nice alignment of where we were, what we needed to do, in pretty simple terms. Like I said, it was so much like our team that I couldn't ignore it, pretty much. So that's where that came from. Because I'd read it before, it was easier for me to kind of align with, and the number one, or the base of that pyramid is building trust, and the trust is I guess on an emotional level, and that was something that wasn't hugely around in rugby league circles. Like, it was very much a manly type sport where you kind of, especially as a coach, you feel like you need to, and I hide my emotions anyway, but this was about being vulnerable, and I started to do that that was a way to build trust. And you know, doing what you say you're going to do, like that sounds really simple, but that's just like a daily thing that I always think about. If I said I was going to do something, have I done it? And honestly, if you do that to yourself, like it's an effort keeping yourself accountable just doing that, you know.
Yeah.
You know, oh yeah, I'll ring you later, or this or that. So just things like that. Honestly, it's, you know, a trust. Like I said, it's hard to measure trust, but it's, you know, if it's there or not. You know, if you trust someone, or it's just so important. Mate.
Yeah, well, I remember the way you said, "Hey, this is our team right now. We're dysfunctional at the time." And the foundation was, if there's a lack of trust, then there is a fear of conflict, which you cannot have to be a successful team. You need to be able to hold each other to account. And it led, if you have the lack of trust, led to this, and eventually the top of the pyramid, you've just got someone caring about themselves and no one else.
Yeah.
And if you want more info on that, just go and get Patrick's book. But you then worked out, well, to build trust, you earn it through your actions every day, but also that vulnerability piece. You wanted to connect guys a little bit more, and by being vulnerable, that just built a level of trust. So that's the training, the performance type areas where they earned their trust, but it was that piece, that vulnerability piece, which you started.
Yeah. So
you were vulnerable to the team.
It's opening up when you don't know everything, or you made a mistake, or I need your help. You know, you're better at me than this. Yeah, just generally things like that, and sort of trying to create that environment where that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned a bit about fear of conflict. I guess the classic case there is when you have a meeting and people are sitting in that meeting thinking to themselves, I don't agree with this, or what's he saying that for? But if there's it's the type of environment where no one's going to have that conflict, then when the meeting finishes, then there's the meeting after the meeting, or the 3 different meetings. Yeah, or when it goes wrong, you know, I never thought that was a good idea. Stuff like that, which is so much human nature. You know, it's like, so this is not easy.
Yeah.
I guess that's the point. Like, it's easier to say nothing most of the time.
But to invest and make that your priority, you now have a team that the level of connection is clear for anyone to see, even if they don't really follow your team. It's clear how connected they are,
Hope so.
how much trust there is. So,
Hope so.
Well done on continually believing in that, mate. I'm going to go to those few questions that we started at the start.
Let it rip. I hope I can give you something.
How do you define success?
I feel like there's two types. Okay. It depends which way you look at it. So I guess I have success in my personal life. That's super important to me, probably the most important, and that's, I guess how I am as a my performance as a father and as a husband, and so to my relationship with my wife and my kids, bigger family, is good, for want of a better word. I want to be there for my kids and my wife. I feel like that's it's probably the biggest role I have in my life. So, and that's a daily exercise, and all the things we're talking about are so important in that as well. So if my kids, my wife are flourishing and happy, and then I'll feel like that's success for me. There's 2 types in a professional environment. You can't avoid the fact that winning is successful in professional sport. It's not all, I'll get to that bit in a minute. It's not all about that, but without a doubt, it is a results-driven business.
Yeah.
And if you're not winning, so obviously you want to win the premiership every year, but just generally speaking, winning games or winning enough is important. I believe in starting with the end in mind. And then once you understand where you want to get to, then it's just all about process. You don't have to keep talking about it. Once you know what you want, that's what you get out of bed for every day. And, but then it's just process. So sort of, it's almost like your third eye's on that, but your two eyes are down here,
Yeah.
But everyone can't win, so there's definitely the other side of it, of success is literally just getting the best out of what you've got. So, and that is a success, but you just can't, there's got to be, I think there's got to be a part of you who risks, losing to win. And that's something, that's a change that I definitely made a few years back, where I felt I would risk more. Because if you want to win, you've got to risk losing. And if you don't really go after the win, then at some point you're almost like cushioning the blow somewhere, where I reckon I did that for ages, where I was sort of like surviving. And that's not succeeding. If you honestly do your best and give it everything you have and do every single thing you possibly can, and you don't win, sure, you can sleep at night and that's a success. But I reckon there's so many people out there who just think, I could have done better. I should have done this. I think that. I know that in my playing career, I had a decent career, but that's my biggest regret, that I just didn't set the bar high enough. I didn't take enough risks to actually get further. I'd just be happy getting the next contract or playing in a good team, or sort of staying, not sticking my head above water, not, playing okay, but not taking enough risks to make mistakes, big mistakes, play bad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I honestly think that is something there. Yes, you can be successful if you give it everything you have, and it just doesn't work out, and that happens, I'm sure. But I reckon there's a lot of people who don't do that because they don't want to risk the pain of losing.
I'm sorry, I am going to stay before moving to the next question. On what does winning look like on a daily basis as a head coach? Like, you're making a difference in a lot of lives, not just winning games. And I know you've articulated your vision to be a source of community pride. Like, you've got a whole community around you. How does that look on a daily basis? Like, what does a win look like for you when you came home this afternoon?
Yeah, so the vision about community pride, that's sort of like that's an infinite goal, and it's sort of like it's not like a scoreboard. So it's a nice one to chase, and something that sort of keeps you accountable to many things without having to play the scoreboard. I reckon winning to me on a daily basis is just the details, not walking past standards. Just not getting distracted myself, and just accepting, particularly in pre-season where a lot of the days are similar, which I imagine in business like that would happen a lot, where it's just day in, day out, and you can easily kind of get, I guess like anyone, you can kind of drift a little bit. Drifting's not winning, and yourself, like when you're not sharp enough and you're not onto things, and you've just let a few things drift, and you put off a conversation or just stuff like that. If you're on top of things and you're seeing and you're sharp and you do something about it, and I think that's winning.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. My other questions. Righto. Well, it's similar. What's your greatest achievement? I mean, we've gone down the family. Yeah. You got a lot of reasons why family are your number one. That's come out in everything you talk about. What's your greatest achievement?
Yeah, it's my family. I'm proud to have had like 30 years married this year, so beating the odds there. So that's the number one priority, like for me and my family, is my relationship with my wife. I've always put that first, because if we're strong, I've always believed if we're strong there, then the kids they'll be good. Sort of like that first, and then the kids. They know that, but like, do you know what I mean? Like it's just one block first, one brick by brick, and that's the biggest brick, and could create that stable. Again, I guess it's about environment. It's a bit like coaching the team. You get the environment right, and then so that's something that's worth the effort. And but I've been fortunate enough I got lucky in love and marriage, and hasn't been a whole lot of effort, to be honest. It's been pretty easy and awesome. So, and then after that, just the way my kids have grown up and what they're achieving, not just professionally, but like as people, how they interact with others in the community. I definitely feel like that's my biggest achievement. I'm very proud of that.
I mean, a lot of people obviously know about the father-son relationship with Nathan and you as coach, winning premierships together, but that's not what this episode's about. They can go and Google that or read and follow that. But I love always talking when you talk to me about what all your kids are up to, and they got their own journeys, and but obviously that's a very high profile relationship, you and Nathan.
Yeah, and you know what, I feel really lucky because my family is everything to me, but I'm also fortunate enough to work with my son on a daily basis, and not just that, but my whole family is part of our little footy team, and all the success we've had, they've all been there, and to be able to share that with them is super lucky. Like I say this, I feel like working with Nat, like as just working with my son is like it's a bit of an unfair advantage, a bit of a superpower, I think. So.
Is it what? And talk about trust. Talk about trust. You and he's your co-coach. He should be getting double pay.
He's getting enough, don't worry.
No, but talk about trust. And I mean, it's interesting. We're sitting here we've chatted about his workplace, and he says he breaks all the rules and employs his best mates. And like there's no better mate than you and Nathan to work together, and it's so clear that that's a superpower of yours.
Well, I would challenge any other coach to have a more trusting relationship with their playmaker than we've got.
Yeah. That should be your salary cap deduction or something.
Oh, mate, we're already getting enough of those.
And, I'm sure your wife Beck will get a mention in this next answer because you've always referred to her as a rock. The other question was, what has been your biggest challenges? And I dare say she helps you through everything. She's part of the team. What's been your biggest challenge in your role as a leader, as a coach, and your journey? It's been a lifelong journey, sport for you, but what's been your biggest challenge? Having
enough confidence to do it the way that I do it. Yeah. I think I have definitely had some mental challenges over the years, mental health problems, when we're losing or second guess myself or being manipulated by someone else or whatever. Like, I think if I really put it down to something, that's because I'm just not. I just wasn't backing myself, didn't believe in myself, didn't think that I was good enough, and that just that just spirals into like just not making good decisions, being overwhelmed, not clear. Beck definitely helped me, a lot through that. I learned a lot about myself, about being able to talk about that, being open to, and often when you talk about it, that actually, you almost help yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like getting all this weight, and it's just, because when you talk about it, like you just think, what am I doing? Like it's, or like I said, that reinforcement, even if you just actually think clearly, and well, someone might just, that you trust, go, mate, like, you're on the right path. It's like, the thing is, the silly thing is, we all go through ups and downs. You're not going to win everything, and that's just part of the journey. It's like losing can be or not succeeding can sometimes be the greatest, where you get your greatest learning from. So, but when you're down and you're overwhelmed and you just can't see the way out, you can't see that. So that's that have definitely been my biggest challenges. But first year back here, 2019 in particular. Yeah, that was very, very, very difficult because someone had put a lot of faith in me to come back, and under there's a lot of publicity around it, obviously with Nathan playing, so that was even bigger. You know, coming to coach your son. Us failing was always going to be a bigger story than succeeding, so unfortunately, but that's the way it is. And then I was just not in a good space. We weren't succeeding, we were failing. I wasn't myself. I was, you know, and I felt I was letting everyone down. So I think when you're in that kind of space, that's probably the most challenging.
Well, yeah, because you said you're at your best when you're clear.
Yeah.
At the start of the episode,
Well, that's how I know that.
When you're clear.
Yeah, that's how I know that was from when you're going through those challenges and you kind of come out of that and you go, right, okay. Next time you start, you know, heading down that rabbit hole, you know, I've now got, you know, tools to actually, you know, make sure that doesn't happen. One is talking early, you know, got a bit more trust and faith in myself these days as well, so.
Early talk, it's like being on the field, right? Early talk.
Do you work early, H, and everything be sweet.
Brad Fittler had a beauty. I know Brad Fittler, a great friend of yours, was your captain when you played with him. And he's coached your son in Origin. He had this thing, BEST, B-E-S-T. Breathe. Every morning, start breathing. Breathe. Energy, meaning fill your body with good energy. Hydrate. What I've said. Breathe.
Sleep.
Energy. Sleep. And talk. And the talk bit was, you just said it there, like you've got better at talking and getting on it early.
Yeah,
you know,
it's being vulnerable, really. That's what it is. It's being vulnerable. It's being allowing yourself to not know it all and not have all the answers, and you know.
Remember that meeting when you just you laugh? We laugh about it now. When you said you were just sitting there and you like nothing was coming through. Like you were. It was in one of those. We were going through a really tough time, and we had a meeting, a team meeting, and you said you just realised after it, you just weren't even there.
Yeah.
You know, you were pretty foggy that day.
It wasn't as bad as when I started taking antidepressants.
That was the one.
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah. So I started taking
brilliant.
antidepressants. That's how. I honestly, I actually finally accepted that I needed help. You know.
Yeah.
I took them and. Like basically, you have to take a certain amount, then for your body to regulate what you need and what you don't, you know, how much you need. Sorry. Anyway, I was sitting in this, sitting in a meeting, then we had a recruitment meeting afterwards. I was just sitting there. I was just like absolutely that spaced out. I remember thinking, this is not good. You know, I didn't care about anything. Like I thought that's not good for my job. You know, so I stopped taking them and. Luckily enough, we won that. We won the next week, and we won the next 7 games.
It helped clear it up a bit.
So everything started feeling a bit better.
That's
but
right.
Yeah, we didn't finish that year well, and but that's sort of when we, you know, made some really big changes around.
Really clear.
Clear about culture, and like I said, was much more explicit about this is what we're going to do, and we're going to go. If we go down, at least we're going to go down. You know, the way I believe. You know, and that was a bit of like the change in like me of like I'm going to risk losing to win, and we're going to do it. Yeah, if we fail, at least I'm going to do it. You know, the way I believe in.
Yeah. Well, mate, well done, and thanks so much for your time. You've always been giving of your time. Well done on changing your players' lives. I mean, anyone that you've lost that's had to move on, they've gone and signed biggest contracts of their life. You've created a sense of pride in a community that you just have to come to this town now, and you can feel it just driving in to Penrith. Well done on that. Well done on. I know your goal. You really would love a dynasty, but you just have a love of consistency. You just love constantly winning. So, well done, mate, and thanks so much for sharing to the leaders out there. We're saying that this is the leadership playbook, and I'm hoping that they watch this episode more than once because there's some gold in that. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sage. My pleasure, mate. Good on you, legend.